Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire together and share our stories of connection to the divine and to the greater part of us that flows through life, to that which is bigger, to the mystery, the magical mystery door, to whatever you want to call it. God, source, creator, universe, great spirit, whatever your word is, higher self, whatever's true for you. And we love to explore that. I'm your host, Carrie Hummingbird. I love these conversations. They enlighten me. I always learn something new on these. I enjoy them a great deal. And I love to talk to the people that I interview because they're all so unique, just like you out there in the audience, just like you. You're all so unique, and all the people I bring on the show have their own story as well. And I love sharing those stories. So today I welcome Jacqueline Lauren. Welcome, Jacqueline.
Thanks so much for having me, Carrie. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm really glad. Yeah, glad to find you. So, I wouldn't have found Jacqueline if she hadn't have gotten brave and put her podcast out there.
Yeah, we just happened to connect, in a Facebook group, I think it was?
Yeah, Facebook group.
Podcast group specific? Yeah.
Yeah. So like social media, connecting light workers. Yay, social media. So Jacqueline is the founder of Jacqueline Lauren Design, an intuitive brand strategy and design company. She merges 15 years of graphic design knowledge with an understanding of how energy and intention affect our lives and our businesses. She also understands the importance of listening, both to her clients and her own divine guidance. By following her inner wisdom and transforming her self-limiting beliefs, she allowed herself the freedom to expand and not follow the status quo. So she moved out of the toxic urban environment she was in onto a beautiful horse farm. And so she also, is doing this podcasting thing, which is so fun. Realign with the Divine is the name of her podcast. And I'll be on there soon with talking about the second wave. But this is really an interesting way for us to all connect is through these podcasts, the interview series, increase the visibility of healers, share personal stories of awakenings, discuss alternative healing and how, plant medicine and all kinds of things that we can, get back to our higher selves through this, regardless of where you've been on your journey so far. So this is really, it's a gorgeous thing. We're just going to launch into our discussion because we got so much we could talk about. Jacqueline, so tell us about your journey and a little bit about, how you removed yourself from the urban environment and got yourself relocated to some space and still making money. That is like awesome, because what light worker doesn't want that?
Right?
Kind of like, get me away from these people.
I had been living in Philadelphia for about 8 years. I bought a house down there when I was in my mid-20s, a row home in a very densely populated area. And it was really fun for a number of years. But after about 5, I felt like I had really overstayed my welcome. And by year 8, I'm going to say, a neighbor had moved in that was making the experience so bad that I really was ready to move. And I was driving out of the city maybe 3, 4, 5 times a week to go to an environment where there was nature, to go hiking somewhere. It was just too much cement, too void of animals and life and just having space. Because everywhere you went, it was just wall-to-wall people, even everybody having the internet, like not ever being away from the frequency of the internet was another thing. So as I was driving out to all of these remote places to get a dose of nature, I finally knew that it was time to really move out, and the problems with this particular neighbor were escalating to a point that I didn't feel safe there. So in some ways, I feel like I manifested this neighbor to help me move to a place and a space that was much more in alignment with who I was becoming. Because when I moved into this house, I just a few years after being there, started a new relationship. And that relationship really served as an activation of opening me spiritually. So as that got going and I was becoming more conscious of things, eventually nature became a source of great healing where I could think and expand. And eventually, I sold the house, and I wasn't sure exactly where to go because I didn't want to own again right away. So I ended up moving to Brigantine, which is a Jersey Shore town. And it was the winter, so I was able to get a rental property for about 8 months that I wouldn't have been able to afford during the summer peak months. And when that happened, there was no one there. So now I've taken myself to an environment where I'm just isolated away from people. And after the city living experience, that was ultimately really what I needed. So at the end of that, I was really forming a vision of what I wanted to see myself in, and it involved living on a farm. I had never lived on a farm before. I grew up in more of a suburban area, and I hadn't even visited too many farms. I had done a little bit of volunteering at a farm down the shore, but nothing like living on a farm that was active. So I had a client that was located very close to a place that I ended up looking at a farmhouse. And I drive out there, and on the first drive there, I just had full body chills. I hadn't even gotten to the house yet, but the land I was driving through was so stunning, and I couldn't believe that I had never seen this part of town before. So once I got there, I hardly even looked at the farmhouse, and instead I just looked at the surrounding land, and I thought, if they'll let me move here, I'm really wanting to move here. But there was one drawback to taking me on as a tenant, which was I did not come with a horse. And this was a working horse farm. And they'd really wanted a tenant that could also board their horse, because they would have ended up making a little bit more money off of the rental. So as it turns out, I had 2 contacts in my life that were friends with the owners. And I could have never predicted that. It's like, oh, a total synchronicity is lining up here to move me into this place. All of a sudden I have references that I didn't know about that are, calling the owner saying, Jacqueline would be a really, really good tenant. Like, you should totally let her move in. So I've been here at this point over 3 years, and it's a working horse farm. We also have sheep and chickens, a turkey. There's dogs and cats running around, and it's really been the most healing place that I've ever lived by far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the space behind you. It looks gorgeous, really beautiful.
Right now we're in the second floor loft space of a 1755 carriage house, I believe.
Wow, beautiful.
Thank you.
So this is really gorgeous. So this idea of retreating, so tell me a little bit about like what's happened for you, like energetically and spiritually, since you've made this move to go and be with nature and be out of the city and out of like dense humanity.
I have been able to expand, and I have been able to look at and identify the blocks that were stopping me from getting in alignment and living my life to the fullest since I've been here. And a lot of that has come from simply the quiet of it, and being able to take a walk every day in nature where it's just me, like I'm not listening to music, I'm just grounding myself. So putting your feet on the land, it turns out there's a retreat center just down the street, and the road turns into a dirt road, and it gets very remote. And I ended up befriending the woman that runs the retreat center, and there is a beautiful garden there. So I've now started going to the garden and sitting and writing, or sitting and meditating. I've even done breath work there. And one of the other things, we were able to start an ecstatic dance at the retreat center. And I don't know if you're familiar with ecstatic dance, but that was something I encountered while I was at a festival. I had always been into dancing, but there was something about being able to dance barefoot that was really powerful. A great way to move stuck energy, dancing, walking, like any type of movement. It's taken a long time for me to be able to just sit and meditate. For a while, I really considered walking to be a meditation. What else did I want to share around that? Just that being able to take the time to watch the seasons change. Like I'm in Pennsylvania, so we have really stunning, every season is stunning here. But I live basically in a meadow now. So seeing all of the change that can happen in just a few days, you start to remember that you can apply that to your own life. Like the change can happen quick.
Yeah, it can happen really quick. I've been working with a little bit with that emotion code. And that's just like instantaneous. You just say the thing, like, okay, here's the thing I want to release, and then you do this little motion and like bam, it's gone. It's
Yep.
like done. This isn't like 50 years of psychotherapy. Thank goodness. So, what I really love about this is that you landed in your spot, you followed your intuition, you followed your heart, it synchronistically lined up for you. Then you start exploring your environment, then you find another connection that's totally synchronistically aligned with this retreat center. You not only have a place to go meditate and hang out there, but you also have like an ally that you can produce co-create events and beneficial outcomes for other people. Like that's huge. And you're remote, but you're still in service because you still have your podcast and you're out there with your podcast. So
This place is
great.
very deceiving in its remoteness. If I drive 10 minutes, I end up in a town that's a college town that's quite lively. So there are just these hidden gems that you might not even have known for many years. Like until you get yourself into the right frequency, you're not even able to find them.
Oh, they hide from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's true. I do. I feel like that's true. I do know that there's layers of reality. Like there's
Mhm.
layers of reality where you can perceive different things. And when you work with like plant medicine, you open up your pineal gland to be able to perceive these different layers of reality while you're in your waking dream. So while you're present and with your eyes closed, or some people with their eyes open, you can actually like perceive some other layers of reality that are going on. And it's not just like a wild fantasy happening in your brain. This is like actual consciousness speaking to you, at these different levels. And so it's not a far stretch for me to come to the place where I go, yeah, I'm never going to be able to even see. Like, for example, there are people that never even hear about this podcast, even though I'm all over the place with it, because only the people that are meant to see it see it. So even if it's on my feed, if I've got a bunch of people that aren't ready for this, they don't even notice it. Like it goes right by their attention, just shh, they never even see it. So if you're watching this, that's because it's meant for you. So it's very specific. And I think it's all intention too. It's the intention that people set. Their intention in having their space is to have it a certain way. So like a retreat center, their intention is to keep this space very quiet, private, unseen by people who would want to be loud and rowdy and be disruptive, right?
And it does a great job of maintaining that. I can't believe that this place has no one around it most of the time, unless they're doing a retreat, which maybe usually happens over the weekend. So there are so many days, so many hours where there is just no one around. Total privacy, and it's beautiful. Like, how did this happen? And I'm thinking, like, I found this. I got myself in an alignment to find this place. That's amazing.
So, we all serve in different ways. And one of the messages that came out in when I channeled the text, the second wave from White Eagle, is that, we are the second wave, which I totally consider you to be part of the second wave. We talked about this before, but it's like we're here to serve in carrying a higher vibration frequency into the world and emanating it together so that we create like an ascension of the energy on the earth. And one of the ways that we can do that is through these podcasts, right? So we're putting it out on the internet, where, then the people who are needing this information will just stumble into it somehow and open the door and, wow, there's this cool podcast, or here's this cool person. I didn't even know this existed. And it's all by design. So they're just getting connected to it when they need to be. Another way is by being around people, by being in physical proximity to people. You're actually like, this is, I wanted to mention about your situation, because I bet other people out there have the same situation with somebody around them that doesn't like them or just get really aggravated by your presence. And you're like, I'm a nice person. What's the problem? Well, and it's because when you're holding higher vibration, you're holding more self-awareness, and you're working on yourself, and you're cleaning out your energy field, you tend to shine brighter. And when you shine brighter, people that have more density, that light, it aggravates their density. It's like grit against their crust, and to them that feels bad, and so they get aggravated. But really, it's just helping them to remove layers of crust, but they don't know that, so they recoil against it.
It was very strange what happened in the city. I was working quite hard to track down the owners of the house that neighbor lived in. I talked to a lot of people. I learned a lot about the legalities and how things work and how hard it was to change the situation I was in. There was very little help. And when I finally was able to get that guy out of there, the neighbors that had not helped me then came and thanked me, but they were not able to help in the moment at all. And as soon as he was gone, like the whole neighborhood changed. And that was really, really interesting to watch. But it got to the point where I had served whatever purpose I was supposed to while I was there. And I needed to be somewhere where I could recenter myself, because I had gotten so out of alignment because of the stress of that situation.
Yeah, so a lot of light workers might be feeling that too, is that sometimes we're called into a situation to be in service in a way such as that, which is really uncomfortable for us. And you're strong enough, like you demonstrated that you were strong enough to hang out in that uncomfortable situation, hold the light, hold the truth, and be persistent and diligent in that, and and not succumb to it. And in the end, you created a positive situation for everybody. And then you honored yourself, right? You honored your own needs and your own self by removing yourself to a situation where you would have, greater space, greater safety.
In hindsight, it all feels really good now. But when
Yeah.
I was in the moment, it was a lot harder to see that there was even a bigger picture at play. And as you were talking about working with plant medicine, I think that's one of the things that I've personally been working with cannabis, and cannabis has helped me reframe the past in such a more beautiful way than what my mind, the lower parts of my mind were telling me was really happening. So now I see, oh, that was all perfectly set up for you to be here now. But you had to go through all of that because you had to even acknowledge the blocks that were in you. You had to remove those blocks. And as you removed them, life started to get better and better and better.
Yeah, sometimes these situations are contrived so that we'll also discover some new capabilities within us that we wouldn't know that we had if we weren't challenged in that way. Like, we can get very complacent if there's not enough discomfort. Sometimes we can get complacent. And I think, on the bigger scale, that's what's happening on the planet right now. And it's starting to get a little ominous, right? Because there's a lot of fires everywhere in the world, the Amazon, Russia, all these places, which is heartbreaking. And unfortunately, it feels like sometimes people need that in order to listen, because there's still a vast amount of the population on this planet that's not paying attention yet. It's amazing to me that they're not paying attention, but they're still not paying attention.
And it's almost becoming, what will it take to wake people up? How extreme is it going to have to get before people are willing to take a stand and say, hey, what's happening right now? Let's label that as not human behavior. We've stopped being human here.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's I don't know if you ever picked this up, but there's like this undercurrent energy. Have you ever seen The Matrix?
You know, only recently, for some reason, I never saw it, and I just watched it a few months ago, and I was blown away. Like, talk about the truth hiding in plain sight. Like, the movie's a little too real, I think, to the parallel of what's going on.
Absolutely. Like those agents
Yes.
always listening. That's the control energy on the planet. That's always is very menacing energy. It's like what confronts many light workers and have nightmares and they feel menaced or terrified by something. That is the energy. So we've been blaming this all on the ego as if it's our fault, but the ego is a built-in mechanism to alert you when something's not right. That is its function. It's to protect you and to let you know when something's not right. So I've now shifted my perspective on it due to some plant medicine. And I'm like, oh, I don't really think it's the ego. I think my ego is working just fine. And it is here to help me. However, it's a very young construction. You know, if you look at like, if I think in bigger terms, like galactic terms or like, consciousness terms, and I think about this planet being relatively new and the species humanity being like relatively new,
Mm-hmm.
it can kind of go, oh, this is a new piece of hardware software combination, and it doesn't know how to weed out this darker influence yet. Like it hasn't figured out how to do that yet. And so I have to be the consciousness that comes in and helps my ego to go, oh, no, 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 not that. Don't listen to that one. Like that's a
You don't
no.
have to react to that.
Yeah,
That's okay.
ignore that. Like no, tell it no, and then leave it alone. Don't give it energy. So our egos don't know that. So we have to be the parents to it. Like we have to be our parent to our own egoic self inside and instruct that ego, like as to what to listen to and what not to listen to, right? I mean, otherwise the agent can take over.
Well, I'll say one thing I did do when I moved out here is I eliminated television from my life a long time ago. So not having as much media and being fed a lot of these messages around fear, I just removed those. And I said, I'm not going to pay attention to that anymore. I'm going to focus on what would feel good to create, the life that we all know is possible, but isn't happening because there's all these dark forces at play. And maybe there's not even that many dark forces. Maybe there's just one, and it's a small percentage of things. But until we wrap our everything around that, all of us, the major change takes everybody.
Yeah, it's definitely a we. I got a big message about this is about we. We no longer allow ourselves to be divided. That was the key message. Like we do not allow anything to divide us ever again. Like that is the decision that humanity needs to make. As a collective, we decide, we choose that nothing divides us. And as we choose, which is really brilliant, look at the Constitution, united we stand, divided we fall. It's wiser words were never spoken, like you said, right in your face. Like how much more clear do you need it to be? If you can't stand united, everybody falls. And that has been the message the entire time.
When you mentioned unity consciousness, that's what everything goes back to. So if there's something that's happening to somebody else and you don't feel good about that, there's a reason for that. It's because it's no longer human behavior. We're human beings. There's a level of kindness that should be applied to all beings.
Yeah, and like I love how you're on the farm and you're learning about the importance of animals and plants and stones and trees and how all of that natural environment actually rebalances your nervous system as a human being and makes you feel better.
Or even walking down to a stream and being able to put your stones in the stream or put your feet in the stream. I mean, it's just a clearing.
Yeah, it's a total clearing. And that's a lot of the messages in this book too. It's like we got to get back to the earth. So as we reconnect to the earth, I think our humanity is restored is what happens. And as our humanity is restored, we can listen to the earth and we can hear it and we can hear other people because we don't have so much noise going on from
Hmm.
this weird like agent energy that wants to crop up, whatever you want to call it, but
Hmm.
this energy that wants to distort things.
So I'm feeling really strongly that I want to talk about something in a slightly different direction right
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
If that's okay. I just want to share that I just went about 150 days because I had received a message that I was supposed to stop drinking alcohol and see what that experience was like. And in stopping alcohol, I was able to get really clear really quickly and make some major upgrades to what was around me and my reality. So I just want to share that uh, if you're looking for clarity, I think it's a very quick way to get it. I had read a study, and in the study, it followed a group of people, and it said that if they had had one drink, it took 3 days for their vibration to be restored to its optimum level. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I'm only going out like 2 or 3 days a week and I'm having a drink or 2 drinks those nights, that means that I am never at my optimum anything. So,
Yeah, that is true, and that's what the indigenous healers say as well, is that you cannot, if you're going to do a healing for somebody, like you cannot have alcohol. It's like 3 days, three
mhm,
days until
yep,
you can really back to your full self, right? So that's something that I get to the pleasure of experiencing, because of course, you know, we all want to integrate into the society. We want to be part of it, right? So you want at some level be part of it. You don't want to feel excluded. You know, you have habits that were formed from like your whole life watching your parents drink, watching people engage in this social behavior that's
mhm.
all geared around alcohol, right? So what's interesting is that conscious gatherings actually they don't use that now. Like it's a whole different thing. You know, you have there's a whole focus to it that's different than alcohol. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, what I noticed was going to different networking events or work events. Now I had to show up and just be myself naturally. It was it was only difficult at first, at that moment when you would first get there and you're not really integrated into the group yet. But once you got past that, what I found was that you end up feeling other people's tipsiness very
It rubs
quickly.
off on you.
Yeah, it really does. So I would notice a shift in my own consciousness just being in the environment of other people partaking in it. And when I would leave and reset myself, I would go back to feeling normal. But I thought, oh, I had no idea that that was going to happen. So that was very unexpected. But I felt a little isolated during that time. But the best thing that happened was how my sleep improved. Like I became a child again. Like I was sleeping that deeply. And I thought, well, I want to wake up and feel this good every day. And alcohol was never a huge problem for me, but it was something that was present. And I'm a social person. So I would find myself out and about a decent amount, probably more when I was in the city than now. But it was really quite life changing.
Yeah, to realize that. You know, and there's also caffeine is another one, shuts down the pineal gland. It, you know, forms a little crust around it. So you got to be careful with caffeine intake as well. You
Agreed.
know, all the things that we're trained to love, you know,
Yeah.
like
Hmm.
it's actually not good for us. And isn't that interesting?
So then the follow up after the alcohol became looking at addictions around food.
Yeah,
And for the first time ever, I did a 3-day fast recently.
that's
And
powerful, isn't it?
it was, yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did
I
you go,
really,
and you're already in nature, so you just kind of hung out outside. What did you do? Did you?
I did a tiny bit of work, just what needed to be done those days. And I really just laid low. And I felt pretty good. I was surprised that after day one, it wasn't as hard as I would have expected. But something up until this point, up until the point of being ready, maybe it was my own ego telling me, hey, like, no, you have to eat, like, don't skip meals, you're not going to be able to function. Now I'm finding, oh, I just eat when I'm hungry. I don't have to follow the societal rules. Why don't I just do what's working to make me feel good? The key word being what makes me feel good. Like, I don't care what other people are doing anymore. I'm going to do what feels right for my body. And if I'm instructed to avoid something, or I'm instructed to have something, I'm going to see what happens, because the guidance I'm getting, it showed up for a reason, and it keeps helping me expand in consciousness.
Yeah, I love that. Like anytime we have a habit, we have to look at it and decide if that's why I love these interruptions, like the retreat, or like you go, do the fast, or you do something like that, because it interrupts all the patterns, and then you can reset in a new way. And it's helpful to do it, with help, like
Mm-hmm.
at a retreat or something like that. It's like easier. But yeah, that's beautiful because you get out of your rote. Because I tend to my guides are always jostling me out of my little nooks because I like to cozy on into a nook and like feel comfortable there and like, oh yeah, okay, I feel good, and they're like, get out of that corner. Like you got to change that up because you can't stay stuck like that. So you were also talking about something. Is that the thing that you were doing to change up your beliefs and things like that, or is there another practice that you were working on?
So I had two guests in my podcast that have something called Mind Flavors. And it is a program where you're watching a 4.5 minute video that's, I would describe it as kind of like self-hypnosis. And it has binaural beats involved. It has sacred geometry, and it has some words, some positive words that come up, but you almost don't notice them. They're so quick. You do a video in the morning, a video in the evening, and about 8 minutes of a breath work meditation. But the most powerful part of it is just a writing exercise, or that's what I found to be the most powerful part, which is you're writing what they call declarations and not affirmations. A declaration is like, oh, I'm already doing this. I'm already doing it. It's happening now. So writing in the present tense what you'd like to happen before you go to bed each evening for 30 days in a row. And they specifically instruct people to write in cursive. And I think that's because it uses a different part of your brain, and it's more of a creative act than writing in print. And one other aspect of the program was a Facebook group that they created for members. And each day you're supposed to share what you noticed or appreciated, or what you are seeing or loving. So those very specific high vibrating words, seeing, loving, noticing, appreciating, the more time per day that you spend noticing what showed up in your day, like the more it becomes free to just keep coming into your reality. And I'm seeing, oh my, like, I can't even believe how my reality is shifting. Spending 30 minutes to an hour a day, focusing my energy on these good things. So I started playing with money around this, and it has been awesome. Like, I have to say, this past 30 days, I've made the most money I've ever made in my entire career.
That's
And
amazing.
like, so I want to say that this has totally contributed to this. And no, I'm not being paid by them to say this, but this worked at refocusing my energy and helping me get into an alignment of creating more of what I'd like.
Yeah, well, one of the things that they're doing, I don't know what they're doing with the videos, but what sounds like what they're really activating is two things. Is right, is the declaration and the gratitude, like it's already happened, is a
Mm-hmm.
key thing. And there's a little subtlety on that one that I've learned I'll share in a second. But the other thing is that it is, I lost the thing. maybe I'm supposed to share about that thing first. Okay, so here's the thing on that. So when you make the declaration, if it doesn't feel true to you, then there'll be resistance. Like it's too far fetched, you know, so you really can't own it because it's too far. And so
Yeah.
here's a little hook I learned from some mentors of mine, which is I'm in the process of,
Mm.
because you can always be in the process of anything, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm in the process of becoming a millionaire. Well, yeah, you can be because you can be in the process of it. You're just in the process. Like anywhere along the spectrum is like you're on the way there. So it's always true. I think it has to resonate as true for you and be a huge desire, right? And then it's like supercharged powerful to say, I am enjoying this thing.
And I think you said the perfect word. I am enjoying. Yeah,
I
exactly.
am. It's the I am presence.
I am whatever good thing you're hoping to create.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing was the reticular activating system. Yeah. So the reticular activating system is like the little, it's like, it's also called the assemblage point. So your assemblage point, you could think of like a little window through which you perceive the world. It's like a
Mhm.
little window. And the reticular activating system is the thing in your brain that sends you information or input from the world depending on the configuration of your assemblage point window,
Mhm.
like how you're seeing things. So when you want to make a shift, which is why I also love retreats, is that you go away, you know, like you're on a permanent retreat right now because you're like living out there by yourself. This is great. So when you're out there away from other people, you're not influenced by their paradigms, you can kind of fall into your own natural rhythm. And you can go and do transformational work. And when you go to do that, your assemblage point shifts. And once your assemblage point shifts, and you can do it in the moment, but it's easier when you're not around other people in your matrix. Like when you're outside of your matrix, you can do this transformation.
Mhm.
And then your assemblage point shifts. Now your reticular activating system's looking for evidence of the new thing, and you can reinforce it with the I am statements. So it's already on its way there. And so you're just reinforcing it by using new language. And language is so important. Like we got to be so careful with the words that we speak.
Now, because I'm becoming more conscious of the language, just when I have interactions with anyone, I'm really paying attention as to how we undermine ourselves in the thoughts that we're having and then the words that we speak. It's creating blocks. It's making it so that things can't come in because of how we're stating things. And it can change just as quickly. Each day, the breath work aspect of this program is to really help when you find yourself in a block. That's going to shift the physical, like whatever is in there as cellular memory quickly.
Yeah, it's important to shift all that because there's like, they call it imprints on your energy body in the tradition I'm in with the four
Mhm.
winds. So you can get imprint on your soul that says, oh, this is the new agreement because I just said it, right? And then you have to clear that now. But if you forgot that you said it and you didn't, you know, you were just unconscious about whatever thing you just said, now that's imprinted and you might forget it for a while until you bring it back again and remember, oh, I said that. Okay, reverse, reverse. So, you know, cancel clear is another one. Like cancel clear, cancel clear. Like don't put that, I'm telling you, don't put that on my energy field, right? I don't want that. I just realized I said it. Cancel clear.
We started a
Delete, delete. Like the
a delete,
delete button works
delete
on
this
this.
program, delete this program. I don't want that anymore.
Delete, delete. Yeah. And emotion code's helpful for that too. Have you heard, I don't know if you've worked with emotion code, but
A
that's,
little bit. I know just a tiny bit about that.
yeah, it's a good one too. There's a program that's with that. You can track like where's the agreement coming from and all that kind of stuff. A lot of it's very squirrely. So, you know, there's also just like clear the whole lot, like just erase the whole board. And we
Mm-hmm.
can do that through energy healing because that is more, especially when it's more sensing based, because there's more information conveyed through sensing and feeling than there is through words and logic. So you can feel the whole range of the thing. You can feel the mass of it that's blocking you. You don't even have to even know what the words are. You just feel it, and then
Mm-hmm.
we clear it. Bam, out of there. We don't need to know what it was. We just whatever that is, we say
Move
no.
it. Someone gave me the advice recently, stop asking why, ask what or how instead. Because
Yeah.
I was a person that always wanted to know the why. So now I really am asking in a different way. So the answers are coming to me in a different way that makes it so that the past doesn't matter as much. The why
And
this happened, why I have this block or this belief system that's not serving me doesn't matter. All that matters is this is how you change it.
And you can add, I wonder. Like, I wonder is a really good phrase to add to that too. I wonder how I become a millionaire.
I
Like,
like that. Yes.
it's a really good question to ask, instead of, I wonder why this person was so mean. We don't need to know that, really. Does it matter? No. I wonder how I become a millionaire. It's a much more interesting question. So,
I'm going to use that.
yeah, I wonder how we heal the planet. This will be a really good question to ask.
Well, that's part of what's been happening. When you start to remove the blocks on just you, then you get into those universal, larger questions that can help everybody.
Yeah, I've been moving out of that me space for a while now, and then periodically up until now, that's another good phrase, up until now, I also learned from my coaches. Up until now, I have gotten a little frustrated with Mother Earth's children who
Mhm.
for not respecting her. And and I do remember that before I was at this place of elevation in my path, it was a lot to just survive. Like, it was a lot to just get through my brain, on a daily basis. Just get through this thing, that
Mhm.
causes like, it can be a lot of spider webs in there. So, up until now. So I like to clear that all out. And so as I've gotten more momentum on my path, I can now turn my energy out, right? Now I have spaciousness to start looking around me in my family, in my community, in my groups that I belong to, in the world, and go, okay, now I have to take action because now I'm able to. And so I think as light workers, there's no judgment here. There has been judgment in the past, and I will not lie. I have had judgment. I have a
Mhm.
frustration that collectively, humanity, we haven't risen yet. But I think that is past because there's just compassion. There's just like, I know how hard it is sometimes, to get through and clear through that mind chatter. And once you do get through it, then you have so much more spaciousness, like you're talking about. You listen, Jacqueline, you listened and you put yourself in a spot where you could be of vastly more service.
It is not necessarily an easy path, but the rewards are many.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at your glow. So you look very
Thank you.
peaceful and happy.
Thanks. People started to tell me I looked different in that 150 days of not drinking. You just look brighter, you're happier. I feel more animated. I feel like the childhood version of myself. And I think that that childhood state of being able to imagine things being more beautiful and creating anything, I'm getting back into that. And that feels physically good. And it's having an effect on my physical body. My thoughts are happier. So therefore, I just look happier. Like everything becomes a stepping stone. And now I'm seeing it all that work show up in the physical.
Yeah, absolutely. And you start glowing. Yeah, and it feels good. I love that you mentioned the magical child space, because I get in that space a lot.
Mhm.
And where this little giggle comes up, I'm like, this is so fun. And I'm actually just having delightful times. There's
Well,
also,
I'm going to say, in just talking to you, I feel like my vibe has gone up because you were of a similar vibration. And then together we elevate each other. So the more that light workers are finding each other, it's like, oh, we can bring in these other frequencies in knowing each other.
in knowing each other, and it can go even higher than we thought. I mean, we actually are discovering what could happen at this time, at a soul level. Like, this is a big experiment. We're figuring this out together. We're discovering it together.
Oh,
So this it could go any place. So just be open, that where you've been isn't where you're going, that where you've been isn't where you're going to stay, that where you've been is just on the road, and you needed some things, you collected them, great. Leave the rest, take the things that matter, keep stepping forward, close that book of fate, and let's move on to the destiny.
can I share one more thing that
Yes.
was really cool? Um, I recently tried one of those isolation salt tanks where you float. Well,
Yes.
what a beautiful physical state to manifest from. Floating, like how could you be any lighter? What a great place to create from. As soon as I did that, I thought, wow, this is amazing. It was an it wasn't even so much the isolation part of that, it was physically feeling lighter and knowing what that was like. I've been in a number of car accidents and I was a former gymnast and I had a lot of back pain. So to find relief from the physical and my brain not having to focus on pain, like that allowed for more peace to come in. So I would totally recommend floating to anyone that has one of those places nearby. That has been amazing. Um,
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I've done the float thing too, and I agree. It feels very good. If you get claustrophobic, you might have a little issue with it, but you can relax into the darkness. And I think they even have lights on the side. A lot of them have lights. You can put the light on so you're not quite so. You
yeah,
can even leave the lid up a little bit if you're nervous about that. But it does. It feels wonderful to lie back and just be held, by the water. It's pretty
it was
amazing.
very reminiscent of being what I can't really recall of being in the womb and not even knowing which direction you are. I know that I'm laying on my back, but at certain points I felt like I could have been vertical. And to lose the sense of time and space is quite freeing. Those are all the limitations of being in this 3D reality. So here's an hour or 2 hours where you're free of limitations. Create from that point, create when you're free. Like you're going to come up with way better, higher level consciousness things if you're feeling light.
Yeah, if you're feeling free and held and supported.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Well, thank you, Jacqueline. And I think that this has been such a great conversation and lots of good tips for any light workers out there. And I hope you guys found it helpful. I certainly did. I enjoyed this. And yeah, definitely join community. I wanted to say that there's the Second Wave Town Hall is up on Facebook. So if you guys are feeling called to that, please come join it. You just type in the Second Wave Town Hall and it's the only one, you'll find it. And you can join and come and be part of community and share tips like this and share stories and share your gifts and commiserate and also lift each other up. And it's everything is welcome. Everything is welcome. The journey is like a little roller coaster. So we just roll with it together.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was great talking to you. I feel great now.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, is there any place that you'd like me to point people to get an idea about what you do and how you contribute?
Sure. Realign.com is the podcast website. And if anybody was needing help with a business that they had, I do a lot of work for healing entrepreneurs, and I do branding work and design work. That website is JacquelineLauren.com, and it's JacquelineLauren.com.
Awesome. And I will put those in the show notes as well, everybody. So check her out, give her some love, give her some support. It's been really helpful. Check out her podcast and yeah, just send some love. And speaking of sending love, if you send some love to soulnectar.show, that'd be fabulous. To help more people find this podcast, this episode itself, that'd be really great. I'd so appreciate that. You can give a rating on iTunes. There's really simple click way to leave some stars for me and the show and help more people find it so we can keep really spreading the word and connecting people. And it's also on YouTube and Facebook, wherever you find it. So please do that. And now we're going to give you kisses. You guys ready? Want to help me? I like to give people kisses. All right, here they come. Mwah. Love you guys. All right, we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.